Hello, everyone. My name is Lanara, and welcome to Dig Perspectives. This is a series of interviews that we run with our colleagues and friends at Dig Insights, which is a market research consultancy. We cover a variety of topics related to research, consumer insights, business, and more. And this time we are joined by Samantha Muscia, who is our vice president at Dig Insights. Samantha is a really experienced insight professional with a whole lot of experience working in research. She's also a mother and a baker. Samantha has been doing some amazing baking projects, which everyone at Dig has loved. And yeah, today we're joining Samantha to talk about the topic of building confidence in the workplace and in life. Welcome, Samantha.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Let's just start with the kind of basics. If you could tell me about yourself, where you worked before, and what is your current role at Dig?
Currently I am Vice President of Insights at DIG on the consultancy side. So I work out of the Chicago office and I am responsible for, kind of one of the teams that conducts research and has a group of clients that I support and any new work. And, we get to work on everything from concept tests to segmentations and kind of everything in between. So, which is really in line with what I've done in my previous jobs. Previously, I spent 5.5 years at a company called Metrics Lab, where I kind of got to do the same thing. The biggest difference now is I'm responsible for, proposals and reaching out to clients and revenue generation and stuff like that, where before I still had a piece of that, but I was much more involved in really running the research team. I had a team of 8 people that reported to me and managed, anywhere from $3 to $8 million worth of projects across the year. So, and before that, I was at a smaller boutique firm for almost 10 years called SMI Alcott. And again, did some very similar. So, my career has been a lot of that, just really getting to run all kinds of research for all kinds of clients, and it keeps me engaged and excited, and I like the variety.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. So moving on, just like started to think about like the work and your experience. How did you build your confidence while in like being in a workplace?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of it being a natural thing for me. I watched my mom um, be a single parent for most of my childhood. My father passed away when I was young, so she was a single parent who, you know, prioritized us, but also at a certain point went back to school and worked full time and got her degree part time. Which is funny because that's exactly what I did when I started. I started working at the company she worked at, Market Facts, when I was 18. And, so part of it is born out of that and just having that sort of natural ability. And part of it is just trusting your knowledge and the experience you get. So, over the course of getting to work on so many different things and getting to work on different types of methodologies and verticals, I realized that market research at its core has a lot of similarities, whether it's a concept test or a package test or an ad test. They're all rooted in a very similar thing. They're all rooted in a control versus a test. And you're just building on that. And maybe it's a difference in how you talk about it, or it's in a difference in the recommendations, but it's all rooted in the same thing. And once I realized that, I realized that I could apply all of the experience I had because I started very strongly in concept testing. I realized I could apply that to pretty much anything I picked up. And then the same thing with getting a lot of experience in A&Us and segmentations when I was at SMI Alcott. I realized that that foundational knowledge and that ability to dive in and find the nuggets and find the threads, you can do that across anything. And so once I sort of realized that, it was really kind of easy to have confidence and be able to, I mean, I've had moments where I've had to sort of, it's not like talk out of your the side of your mouth or your rear end, but it is sometimes. I had a client once, I got roped into doing an online qual group. I am not a qual moderator. I am a quant researcher. So this was kind of like, okay, well, I could do this. And I remember the client asking me, what were the pros and cons of online qual versus in-person qual? I've never moderated in-person qual. I've watched a lot of in-person qual. So I was able to say, you know what, in my head, obviously, I can answer this question. Like, I know what the pros and cons are, even though I had never moderated either of them. But I had enough experience in it that I could be like, I know what we're talking about. Once you realize that you can draw on all those experiences, it does help you just be more inherently confident and able to apply that. And I also think you do have to have that inside yourself. I've had at Metrics Lab had a lot of experiences where there were people who research managers just said, I've never done that. And there was almost a fear of doing something new. And I would always just be like, oh, I've never done that, but I guess I'm going to do it. Like there was almost like, you know, I would just be like, yeah, I'll do it. Just give it to me. Give it to me, my team. We'll take care of it. And I became sort of known for the person that did that because I refused to say, I can't do that. And my mom does that too. She'll come up against a challenge and she'll tell me about it. And she'll be like, and this person, people are like, no, it can't be done. And she'll be like, I'm going to find a way to do it. That's where I think I get that too. I'm like, no, I'm going to find a way to do this because I have that experience and I can. And I think that's a really valuable soft skill to cultivate in yourself to say, yes, there are times where I have internally been like, oh my gosh, what did I say I was going to do? And I don't know how this is going to work. And I'll take a deep breath and go, no, no, I can do this. I have all this experience. I'm going to apply it. And I very rarely have ever had a time where it hasn't worked out well and the clients haven't been delighted. And that's reinforces that it was the right decision. So I think it's a really good thing to cultivate, to step out of your comfort zone, to take a chance on doing something that you don't know how to do. And I think the beauty of a company like Dig and the other companies I've worked for is very rarely have I been kind of sent up the creek without a paddle, so to say. I've always had someone to go to, whether it was even a 5-minute conversation of you did this too once, what do you do? And then just trusting your knowledge and trusting your experience and doing it, and it will come out. I truly believe it. It almost always does come out well when you rely on those things.
That's actually amazing to hear how like you've been like applying and like kind of not like forcing yourself, but like pushing yourself to be
Mhm.
more like confident and like show that confidence in a way that actually played out in a positive way. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's amazing to hear. And I've been
yeah,
seeing like I see that you have like children in the back
I
kind of
do.
walking in the background. So I was just like wondering like how do you like because we've been talking about like life in general and like having kids, like how did you build that confidence maybe in your like life in general?
Yeah, I think it's the same process. Kids don't come with user guides. They don't come with manuals. And my eldest daughter is non-neurotypical. So she is mildly autistic. She has ADHD. She has anxiety. And that has been, I mean, parenting a neurotypical child, which is everything works the way we all expect it to, is hard. Parenting a non-neurotypical child takes it into a whole nother level, and there is no guide. Um, you know, and my husband and I have just had to, you know, rely on our experience being parented because I think both of us would agree that our parents did pretty good jobs. I think we're pretty good people, and had funny. Our parents had different styles too, so it's about us blending it together and being a team. As a mom, you're always going to have mom guilt. I mean, it's just, I don't know where it's born out of. It's just something in our DNA as moms that, I'll have people say, you're doing such an amazing job. And I'll be like, and yet it never feels like enough because it doesn't. But I look at my children who are, sweet, friendly, succeeding in school. Yes, my older daughter, Olivia, needs a little bit more support, but we've also advocated for her. And I think where that's the important thing as a parent is, this is what I want. I want my children to be good people, to be kind people, to be loving people who, stop and pick something up on the street when somebody drops it and goes and gets it to them, or who include people. And, Olivia, despite being, or maybe because she has, her brain doesn't quite connect in all the same ways, she is extraordinarily empathetic. And her teachers all comment on it. And so it's really an amazing quality that I hope we had a part of. But, you just, you do what you think is right, and you keep doing that, and you keep pushing forward to just be the best parent you can be. And so it's the same thing. It's pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. It's researching and reading and applying those things, maybe not 100% to the book, but what works for your children, because you know them better than anybody. And so it's just a process of trial and error a bit, which is a bit
Yeah.
like market research and a bit like work. And you try it and you do it. And there have been things in our path with Olivia that haven't worked, that haven't yielded results, or worse, have actually backpedaled us. And that happened very recently. We were trying a new kind of therapy, and her anxiety was suddenly through the roof. And again, it's that mom guilt. I'll kick myself for it, but it took us 6 months to realize it. It took us 6 months to look at each other, my husband and I, and go, has this all been higher in the past 6 months since we started this? And we were like, all right, we're stopping it. And thankfully, in the past 3 months since we've stopped it, it's all started to go back to her base level. And it's like, okay. And so, it's the confidence to try something that you don't know. So we try something that we hope will work, that we hear works. Doesn't always work for everybody. And so sometimes it's being confident to say, okay, we're going to stop that and we're going to try something else. Like, we decided to try a gluten-free diet. That's working great. So it's just, thank you for sharing that very much. And they are on spring break and home with me right now. So, and it's just being, calm when you can. I fail daily at that. And just having the grace to get up the next day and start again, and know that you will be a little bit better because of the day before, and you learn from it, and you change, and you adjust, and you evolve, and you just, you know, there's never a certainty, and you just hope and pray that your children will be the good people you want them to be. I mean, I think we've talked to our parents, like I've talked to my mom, especially, being a single mother. And I have such a tremendous support system in my husband, because he is the stay-at-home parent. He's currently running an errand, which is why I'm home alone with the two children on spring break. But I don't know how she did it. And, that's what she kind of said. She was just like, you just do what you think is best. And then the next day you do it again, and maybe you change something, and you just keep doing it until suddenly you got two good kids who are, great adults, and, successful and happy and married and have kids. And, so it's in you, and it's relying on your support system, and it's just trying to be better every day. I think that's where your confidence comes from, and knowing that you can always get better, and wanting to get better.
Yeah, that's like that actually sounded like something that like an answer to actual like even my next question, which was like, what would you advise to someone who wants to build confidence? I don't know, like maybe if that's something that you want to like add on to your previous answer,
Yeah.
or is maybe something like even related to like workplace or like life in general.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's what we've talked about. It's just continuing to step outside of that comfort zone. And it's hard. I mean, I remember in work situations specifically, it was at when I was at SMI Alcott, which, was about getting close to closing in. This was probably about 7 to 10 years ago. And I remember I was like getting really frustrated because my boss wasn't giving me more things, and I wanted more things. And I don't know if this was intentional or not on his part, my boss's part, who was a fantastic mentor, um, or if it was, or he was waiting for me to do this. But I had to finally say, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I remember a specific moment where he was like, we're going to do the presentation. I was like, you know what? I want to do the presentation. I want to lead the presentation. And he went, okay. And it was like a total shift at that point for me to say, you know what, I'm not, stop asking. Like, there's a point where you do have to ask. I think when, whether it's early in your career, or, there's certain places where you have to know when you have to ask versus when you have to say, you know what, I really want to do that. Can I have the opportunity? And I think that's where one, your managers, I mean, if your manager says no, you have a bad manager, go find a new one. But I think for all of us, especially at Dig, I always want to say, yes, absolutely. I want you to do that. So it's being confident and asking for it and saying, I really want to take that opportunity. Can I do it? Let's work together so I can do it. And stepping outside your comfort zone, stepping outside that box, maybe it's a little step, maybe it's a big step. That's up to you, but you do what's comfortable for you, or maybe a little uncomfortable, and that's going to build your confidence. And I think that's true of life too. Like, step outside a little bit, like when I first met my husband, we worked together and he walked, our cubes were like on the way to somewhere like commonplace. And I remember I really wanted to talk to him. And so I did. And that was kind of nerve-wracking because I'm a little old school. It's like the guy should take the first step. But, took the first step. And then the next day he asked me out to lunch, and that's really like it. That's the story. And I've talked to that man every day of my life since that moment almost 21 years ago. And it took a moment of stepping outside of my comfort zone and saying, I'm going to go talk to him. So it's
Aw.
just, yeah. And I really believe it's stepping outside, trust everything that's inside of you. And just take that step, whether it's big or little. It can be little, and that's okay. Like, nobody says you need to take a big step. Take a little step and then another little one, and you'll look back and it'll add up to a big step, and you'll be surprised where you've gone. Like, I look back at my career, and even though I'm maybe halfway through it, and there are moments where I'm like, I can't believe I'm here, and yet I can. And so it's like that toss up of like, I can't believe how far I've come. And at the same point, I'm like, feel like I have so much farther to go, and I can't wait to see what that is. As unknown as pie is the sky limit for me, and that's what I love about Dig and the team is it's like it can be as much or as little as you want, and that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. And so yeah, just take that step, take a leap of faith, whatever you want to call it. Um, Take that step, and you will be surprised at where you land.
That's an amazing answer. I'm like sitting here like, oh my God, I need to take that step. Like, this is
Yeah.
actually inspirational. So thank you so much, Samantha. I think we're just gonna end at this. And I really love talking to you. I feel like you've had like so much experience, and I'm so super glad that we've had this chat. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited I got to participate. So thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.